So let's talk gluten. It's a controversial topic, you all. I think we talked about this a little bit last time, so you might want to go back and watch what we talked about with gluten last time. But I think we're finally coming down from the fear of gluten, which was big for a lot of years. I think a lot of people unnecessarily went gluten-free who didn't necessarily need to. But I think there are a lot of people who feel better off of gluten. So let's talk about why that is.
Really quickly, though, also the rise in gluten-free products, I think, was a massive opportunity for a lot of food companies, and they really seized that opportunity because it was quite the buzzword. So a lot of companies made gluten-free products that aren't necessarily healthy just because they're gluten-free. Actually, a lot of them are much worse, or poor nutrient quality, I should say, than other products, because with gluten-free, it seemed to kind of just correlate so well with take out all those whole grains. Those whole grains we've been saying that are so healthy. We're just going to use processed rice instead and make these like rice breads and, just really, really refine the products and call it gluten-free. And it's like, great. Now you're getting hardly any fiber and nutrients. But hey, it's gluten-free. So there's a lot of that, but go ahead.
And let's talk about what gluten is. So gluten is a protein or a peptide that's in grains. And in particular, wheat, barley, and rye contain gluten. Grains contain a variety of different proteins and some of these different protein peptides. So think of it as like a pearl necklace, and it's made up of a bunch of different types of pearls. So gluten could be one of them. Gliadin can be one of them, glutenin. There's also something called gluteomorphin, which can bind to some of those opiate receptors that we have in our brain, which is why some people are like, I'm addicted to bread because it makes you feel really good. Dairy also has one of these. It's called caseomorphin. Also, that's why some people feel addicted to dairy products. But that's aside. So gluten is one of those proteins. It's one of those protein peptides in that pearl necklace. Some people might react to gluten for different reasons. People who are reacting to that gluten protein molecule in particular can be those with celiac disease, which is an autoimmune condition in which their immune system will attack the lining, the villi of their intestines when they eat gluten. When this protein's detected, their immune system triggers it and it goes after it. So if you're celiac, definitely want to be gluten-free. Someone might also have non-celiac gluten sensitivity, but you want to figure out why. Grains and gluten-containing grains in particular, they again contain some of these more fermentable types of carbohydrates. So they do contain fructans, which you all learned about with Dr. B. So they are more fermentable. So that could be possibly behind your non-celiac gluten sensitivity. There's something causing FODMAP sensitivity for you, but you don't want to avoid them forever if you don't have to. There have been studies that have associated low gluten-free diets to higher cardiovascular disease. So you don't necessarily want to just say, I'm going to go gluten-free forever. You want to figure out the root cause. Some studies are showing some compelling evidence for going gluten-free for those with Hashimoto's. It's a type of autoimmune thyroiditis, and they kind of are surmising or estimating that it's because the protein in gluten might look a little bit like the protein in the thyroid that the immune system is attacking. So they've done studies that have shown up to a 30% decrease in thyroid antibodies when going gluten-free. So again, that might be a person who goes gluten-free. But you don't want to necessarily say, I'm gluten-free, I'm only going to have processed grain now. So if you are gluten-free, you want to be really diligent about having other whole grains in your diet, especially if you're not sensitive to, again, some of those other pearls that are in grains. So if you're not sensitive to gliadin, eat oats, eat wild rice, eat black rice, eat quinoa and amaranth and millet, and have buckwheat and some of these other gluten-free grains and pseudo grains. So you don't want to just purely be gluten-free 100% of the time. You do want to figure out why you're sensitive to gluten. And then after you've eliminated it, just like Dr. B talks about in the Fiber Field Cookbook, you want to try that growth strategy to see if you can reintroduce it. You want to see, is it the actual gluten itself? Or do I have fungal overgrowth and it's the yeast that's added to so many of these gluten products?